Rule the day the plant-based way with the new vegan mixed berry from Smoothie King. Powered by whole, non-GMO fruits, oat milk, and vegan protein, it's a dairy-free, plant-based smoothie you can feel great about. With 13 grams of protein and half your daily fiber, it's an easy way to get the essential nutrients your body craves. Skip the line and order online for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King. Rule the day.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. Theory Radio.
Hello and welcome to New Theory Radio, the show where we theorize on arts and pop culture. My name is Nav Nanwa and I am your host, and we are live on Saga 960 AM, as I hope all of you are enjoying all of this summer-like weather responsibly, obviously, so make sure you're maintaining your social distance. But we got a jam-packed edition of the show lined up this week as we bring back our pop culture panel to theorize on the biggest news and topics within music, media, arts, and entertainment. And let's just get right into it. I'm going to welcome our first panelist. She is a multifaceted Wonder Woman who writes and produces her music and is intrinsically involved in all aspects of her career, from designing album covers to directing award-winning music videos. Her debut concept album, Chapter 3 of The Come Up, was released actually earlier this year on February 20th to critical acclaim. And since then, she was nominated for a 2020 Juno Award in the category of Reggae Recording of the Year. And now, with the world currently in retrospection, she has a new EP out called Interlude 19, and I can't wait to talk to her about it. It is the New Theory Radio alum herself, Story. Story, thanks so much for coming back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me again and for that beautiful intro.
And our second panelist is someone who's truly distinguished herself throughout her career as someone dedicated to the growth of others and the support of charitable causes with a positive community impact. She has many accolades, including the Ontario Volunteerism Award, the YWCA's Women of Distinction Award for Arts and Entertainment, Manifesto Toronto Arts Festival Pioneer Award, plus she was nominated for Chatelain's Women of the Year. In my opinion, I think she should have won. And her Toronto-based nonprofit organization and artist development program, Honey Jam, which fosters young female artists, is celebrating a milestone year this year. They're actually celebrating their silver anniversary, 25 years to be exact. It is the lovely Ebonnie Rowe. Ebonnie, thanks so much for coming on New Theory Radio.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And we're excited to have the both of you on here on today's show. And you know what I thought was interesting bringing you both on this panel was I do see a lot of similarities in the work that both of you do. And obviously it's very much rooted within the music industry. But Story, your new project, Interlude 19, and Ebonnie, your long legacy with Honey Jam have both done an amazing job at really addressing equality within the music industry. But, you know, there's times where it can feel like for every step that's taken forward, there's an incident that makes the industry take two steps back. And two examples that really stood out to me this week, mainly on social media and a lot of the reaction that we saw, were the reactions to Cardi B's divorce and how people thought that she only divorced Offset because she was trying to drive attention or trying to use that as a way to launch her album or her new album. And then the way everyone's been reacting to the unfortunate situation with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, especially since Tory released a record that I don't think anyone should have released, but that's just my opinion, this past week. But I'd love to just, take those situations, because there's others that I haven't even talked about that have come up, over the last little bit. And I'd love to get both of your thoughts on the state of equality within the industry right now. And maybe, Ebonnie, we'll begin with you, obviously with 25 years strong in the game and just, knowing and reading about the story as to why you created Honey Jam. What would you say equality looks like right now?
That is such a huge question. And when you say equality, what do you mean? Do you mean female artists? Do you mean female executives? Do you mean women of color?
I say across the board, like especially the stuff that I've been reading this week. Like I'm also hearing about equality issues when it comes to female stage workers, like people who are working on the front lines when it comes to putting on productions. Like there's issues in diversifying those roles as well. So it seems like it's like a holistic problem.
I think it's a global challenge that we all have. I don't have in front of me the stats. And I think that when you comment on things, you have to speak from an educated point of view and you have to have the statistics. So I could say, oh, there's a genocide happening among pit bulls, but then the stats say there were 5 pit bulls killed in 10 years. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm very careful about language. I spent a lot of time working in law firms. And I'm an English major, so language is very important to me. Mm-hmm. What I do know is that there are obvious inequities in all areas of society. There are still marginalized and excluded people. And it's always going to be a daily fight in and out, day in and day out, to rectify those situations. We're doing what we can to not only agitate and push for change, but also encourage women to be in some of the non-traditional areas of the industry. Mm-hmm. So while you might want to call someone out and say, well, hey, where's your female grips, right? Mm-hmm. Like, were there women in that profession who weren't hired, or did they maybe get no women even applying for those roles, right? Because if you don't see yourself represented in a field, depending on your personality, you tend to maybe not go in that field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you have to know all of those things before you then say to a company, well, I'm not going to do business with you because you don't have any female grips, right? Like you have to dig a little deeper. And I find that people aren't doing that so much right now. It's this whole rah-rah phase and jumping on a bandwagon and mob mentality. And, you know, nobody wants to be confused by the facts and nobody's doing the deep dive, a lot of very lazy journalism. And, you know, and I see some people asking for details, and then I see the mob come for them. Like, why do you need details? This happened. We need to go and do this and cancel this person. It's like, whoa, calm down a second. Let's look at this issue from all sides and figure it out. So, yeah.
Well, and again, I'll ask you this one thing before I head to story. But when you started Honey Jam in the 90s, what would you say were some of the key differences then versus what you're seeing right now? Like, did you have a lot of male counterparts look at you differently when you told them, hey, I want to go and create a program catered to female artists?
What do I want to say?
Hey, say whatever you like. This is an open platform.
One of the biggest issues that I had in 1995 was being taken seriously and being respected. I remember going to an industry event with a male colleague, and I said to him, because I was watching how people were watching us, and I said to him, no one is thinking that maybe I'm a manager or a producer or an executive. They think you and I are have something happening, or maybe I want to get with somebody in your band or something. You can just tell the way that a woman knows, right, Story? When people are just kind of leering at you, when you can tell kind of what's going through their head. And then this, you know, the sexual harassment. I mean, I was trying to learn the industry at the time, and it was a totally male-run industry. And so I'd want to meet with the industry players, literally, and they'd be like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to be at the studio till around 11 at night. Maybe you can meet me there. And then what? No, right? Like, I'll meet you at breakfast. or lunch or something that has an ending in a public place, right? But a lot of women don't do that because they think, oh, well, he's this person and this is when he wants to meet me, so this is when I have to be available.
God.
Like,
Wow.
no.
Mhm.
So that still happens. The biggest, I mean, take a look at Jesse Reyes's Gatekeeper.
Mhm.
I literally cried when I saw that. What has changed, the biggest positive change, is technology.
Mhm.
So back then, a young emerging artist had to deal with a male producer to get studio time, right? And now everyone has a studio on their kitchen table, on their laptop, or in their office where they can play around and get demos and get experience. So it's become very much a DIY type of experience where there's so much that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, in 95, there weren't digital cameras. People were coming with Polaroids to Honey Jam. There's no YouTube or any social media. So that has made the biggest difference between then and now.
Yeah, and actually, Story, I remember when we had you on the show a few months ago, you detailed some experiences you had very early in your career, especially when some of these people that you were dealing with knew of your background or knew of your story, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say in regards to the state of equality within the industry right now, based on your experience?
Well, I would just agree with Ebony. I've had those 11 p.m. meetings, quote unquote, and when I I was a stripper for many years. I was coerced into that industry by my ex-boyfriend who took all my money every day and abused me. And he was disguised as a producer when I met him. And so I had been exploited for a long time. And when I got out and I started meeting other people, I started networking, and I was trying to reach out to people. I was trying to go, listen, like, I don't want to be exploited anymore. Like, I have this talent and I really want it to be seen. And everyone was always like kind of fetishizing me and wanting to meet me at these like 11 o'clock meetings at night. And I was one of those people who thought, okay, I'm not going to sleep with them or whatever. I had my boundaries, but like, okay, maybe I can figure this out. Maybe I can meet them at 11 o'clock because I'm thinking in my mind, having left the sex industry, I'm going, okay, this is my value in life. I didn't believe anything else of myself. I thought that my value was my external beauty. That's what I had to offer, and everything else was second. And it took time for me to develop my self-worth to be able to go, no, I'm not coming to meet you at this time. I don't care. Like, I'm not trying to be nice to you to like let your ego down softly, because that doesn't help anyways. Like, they're still going to not let you in that studio and that party anyhow. So, why am I going to try to be nice and let you down easy? No, I'm just going to say what it is. And it took time for me to get to that point and to develop my confidence and to get to that place, because I was going to all these meetings by myself. And so I always kind of try to tell women to like, bring a friend with you, make sure you're not going late at night, like Ebony said, make sure it's a public place, lunchtime, you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's still going on and it's still gonna go on. And I think that the Me Too movement really made an impact on the film side of things, but I don't think it had as much of an impact on the music side of things. And I think it just changed the linguistics of people. So now I have a lot of men who I know are misogynists be like, they'll use sort of like, it's kind of like, what do they call it? Gaslighting, where they're kind of like, oh, well, I'm like super feminist and I believe that women should be this and that, but then they're still doing their dirty work underneath, but they're using this kind of veil to cover themselves up. So watch out for that. And then I would say, as far as like what we consume, right? They always say to, spend your dollars wisely. And I say the same thing to the rest of the populace. Pop culture, although it seems to tell us what the trend should be, is also following what we are consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are consuming a misogynist's music and you are supporting him with your streams and with your dollars, then that is going to continue to be the standard, because people will be like, oh, well, that's making lots of money, so I'm going to just talk about pimping or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll make money too, because that's my dream and I want to be an artist, even if that's not their truth. And so I think it's really important when we see, you know, like you said with Tory, like he shot
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to, like, you have to just stop consuming his music if you believe that he's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, we can't keep perpetuating this. And you vote with your dollars, you vote with your streams, uplift people that are saying good things, that are pushing culture forward. This is what we need, you know?
And that was the genesis of this topic when I was thinking through the show. Was I saw the reaction. Well, I've been following that entire situation over the last few weeks, and we have talked about it previously in the show, but I feel like it's a unfortunate case study regarding just the mistreatment that a lot of female artists still get to this day. And outside of the incident, it's even just the blowback that a Meg Thee Stallion gets online for even speaking her truth or speaking her perspective. Like, there's people out there, even when Tory Lanez put out that record, that were supporting him, that were like, oh yeah, good for Tory for sticking up for himself because he's been slandered. And to me, I'm mind boggled. Like, I just don't get how, with everything that's going on in the world, we would allow someone like that be glorified. And Ebonnie, I'd love to get your perspective on that, considering the amount of years you've been doing Honey Jam. Does that surprise you?
Does what surprise me?
Just some of the blowback that Meg Thee Stallion had gotten based on her situation, and maybe some of the support Tory Lanez has been getting since putting out his response yesterday or 2 days ago.
I have to say, I haven't done a forensic deep dive on this.
I don't think you need to.
be honest. But so I will say, we don't know what the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I won't take a stand until the facts come out. I wasn't surprised by the blowback that Megan got after she came out and said that it was Tory, because of what I think is a very misguided and stupid rule of the streets about snitching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is why she got that blowback. It's just a code of the street. And when you're in hip hop, then you're going to be held to that standard. And that's why you don't ever go to the police. You don't ever cooperate with any investigation. You don't ever say anything, which is asinine in my view. So I wasn't surprised. I mean, so that means, how brave was she to come out and say that, because she had to know that that was the code and that she was breaking the code by coming out and saying that.
Yeah.
So I wondered what had taken her so long, because there was all of the speculation about what was happening. Anywho, so she did that. And then I did not listen to any of Tory's stuff, but I think I saw some lyrics posted, and my immediate reaction was that it was very classless. And you know, he's talking about how he was attracted to Kylie and making it seem as if she was jealous. Like, it was just seemed very immature and classless to me. I haven't read all of the lyrics, but a lot of the reaction has been quite negative. And I wonder, I don't believe, if you have a situation with someone, I don't believe that you go to social media before you go to the person, right? I think that's cowardly. And I think that their camps maybe need to talk, or he needs to talk to her or something. But now it's kind of gone too far. And the final word really, I guess, will come with what law enforcement has to say. It took him a long time to speak also. So if he wasn't guilty, why wouldn't he have said that immediately in a
Mhm.
matter of hours as opposed to a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Like, because he wanted to work on the album and then get more anticipation for the album, which would be not cool at all.
It makes me think about like his team and who on his team thought that was a good
That was a
idea.
good idea. I'll bet you that his lawyer said, be quiet.
Yeah,
I'll bet
probably.
you that they told him that immediately. And then maybe in his isolation, he was like, oh, let me turn this into a platinum selling album or something, you know? I don't know.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
I've noticed from this is obviously the allyship that you've been seeing in support of Megan. And even I saw that earlier this week with Cardi B and just people saying that, oh, she got divorced because she has an album coming out and she needs to get her name back in the news. Like nonsense like that, which from a PR standpoint always gets ridiculed. But I'd love to get both your perspectives on the importance of allies. Ebonnie, when you shared your story about when you were coming up in the industry, it sounds like you had some strong male allies that were, you know, I guess guide you along or bring you to those meetings so that you weren't equal, and maybe you were able to rely on them for other things in the future. And Story, I know you have quite the community around you when it comes to some of your collaborators. Have allies helped you in your journey when it comes to standing out within the industry or within the industry? And Story, we'll begin with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really blessed right now. I have some really, really amazing people around me. And I remember when I was looking for this team, you know, that everyone speaks of that is so important. And it is important. And so it's important who you choose to be on your team. And it was very difficult for me because I just wasn't finding the right people, because majority of people were sexualizing me, and I just wasn't interested in being in that space, in that energy. I'm sure people would have worked with me had I, you know, maybe decided to be a little bit more, I don't know, you know what I mean? Give them what they want. I have no idea. But I was very frustrated, and that's how I created my first album. I ended up producing it myself with my buddy Tom, who has been a huge ally of mine. He's been my best friend since high school, and we wrote and produced that album together. And we both aren't producers, and we weren't this is going to be the vision that we had for the album. It wasn't, but we were just like, okay, we can't keep waiting on people to give us support. We just have to create our own, platform. And it was a small platform, but it was something. And so I started to build more and more relationships with people who really just respected what I did and my artistry. And so I started collaborating with Junior T for this next record that I put out, Interlude 19. And a memory that really I hold dear to me is when I wrote For No One. I had just written an idea. He sent me the beat, and I sent him, I sent him a message, and I said, hey, do you want to hear the voice memo idea that I have before I go into the studio to do the final recording, just so you can kind of okay it and see if you want any changes? And he's like, nah, fam, everything you write is fire. So just
Nice.
Go in there, send me the stems when you're done, and I'll finish the production. And I did that for all 3 songs that we did for the record. And it was interesting because I did the record in 7 days, right? I wrote them and I recorded everything in a very short time. So I didn't really have a lot of time to overthink. And it was nice to have that voice, to have that male voice, because we still even as women, we still have misogynistic tendencies, and we do still want that male validation. And so it was nice to have someone not mansplain me and just go, you got this. Like, you have what you need to make this record happen. And so I took that with me for all the songs, and that's how I was able to do it in such a short amount of time, because I didn't have to like overthink, you know, I didn't have to second guess myself. I just kept hearing June's voice in my head going, no, you got this. Like, everything you do is fire. And that was like super important. And it's something so simple, you know, it's not like, you know, he didn't fund my whole project or something. Like, you don't need to do it like that for people to be moved and changed. It's sometimes those really small bits of encouragement. And I'm really lucky to have family and friends around me who believe in what I do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Ebonnie, any familiar stories or similar stories?
In the early days, I can't really say there were a lot of male allies. There were some men who were actively working against me and telling people not to support what we were doing.
Oh, wow.
Because they were very offended. When Honey Jam first started, it was a reaction to misogyny in hip hop. And so 99% of the artists performing were hip hop artists. And our goal was to create a safe and welcoming space for women artists, but we were very much focused on hip hop at the time, which was a boys' club, a very treasured, protected, sacred thing for them that they took very seriously. And so who was I as a woman, you know, who did not ask permission or, you know, get down on my knees to service anyone, to be allowed into their sacred space, far less to have any sort of critique. So that was an interesting time. But there were some men who were not trying to get a date, who treated me with respect, and who knew my heart and my reason for what I was doing. And it was not, you know, to crush anything, but just to expose some of what was happening and to give, you know, some women who want to be in the space an opportunity. So yeah, I definitely did have some men who were supportive, and that is essential. I mean, they were running things. So, you know, you needed to have that kind of support if you wanted to get things done at a certain level. So I'm the type of personality, I'm a disciple of Malcolm X. I believe in by any means necessary. So if there was not one man who was going to help, I wouldn't be like, oh, woe is me. That's really messed up. It's like that. I guess I'll go do something else. Right? If you put a barrier in front of me, I'm going to knock it down, go around it, over it, under it, whatever's necessary. Nothing is going to stop me from what I want to achieve in life. Right? And so I don't wait for a handout or for people to get a conscience or for them to do the right thing, right? I'm going to get done what I need to get done, however I need to do it.
And it's worked. It's worked for 25 years, right? So.
Yeah.
And I think even with that mentality, like, people around you will have no choice but to just support what you're doing, right? At some point, you know, they know, hey, we can't hold Ebonnie back. She's just going to do it.
Yeah. It's funny. One of the awards that I got, a man who is very powerful in the industry was interviewed for it, and he spoke about me, and he used the word relentless. and then he said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "You have to answer back that energy and passion." Yeah. Right. So that's what it reminded me of as you said that. Yeah.
Just to kind of close this topic off, what do you guys want, or what do you both want the future to look like? Anyone can take it.
In terms of?
in terms of equality in the industry, and where do you want to see it going? If because it sounds like we still have issues that we need to resolve, but what does the ideal future look like?
It looks like kumbaya.
Mm.
It looks like a more benevolent society. It looks like we are the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think that's what everybody wants. An equitable, fair society where we're on an equal playing field, where everyone can be considered and not prejudged because of superficial things or biases or prejudices or all the many isms that they are. That is the dream. There's a Sarah McLachlan song or an album called Fumbling Towards Ecstasy. And that's what I feel we're all doing. We're trying to figure it out in order to get to the utopian state. I want to get to the utopian state.
Do you feel like we'll get there?
Yes.
I think we'll get there too. I don't know how quickly. I just watched a movie about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I remember relating so much to that character and feeling like not a lot has changed. And oddly, so much has changed, but I still feel so unequal at times, you know, on a daily basis. And so I think there is a lot of work that needs to be had. It's kind of like when people were like, I don't know, with this all lives matter crap. And I'm just like, no, like, yes, Black people are not technically like slaves anymore, you know, back in the day, but we have a lot of work.
You are listening to New Theory Radio.
A big change this year was obviously the live event industry. Ebony, you have the Honey Jam 25th anniversary coming up, which I'm assuming before COVID was supposed to be a massive gathering of everyone and anyone within the GTA. But we'll get into that a bit later. But this week, live event staff across the world were honored with red lights being reflected onto concert venues, pretty much all across the globe. This was done to show appreciation for a group that's been hit hard by the pandemic. And 6 months in, and with us now officially being in wave 2, the return to live shows is still up in the air. I think you're seeing some small pocket ones pop up here and there, but if you ask me, someone who, you know, typically my summer's filled with going to a live show every single week. I'm not sure if I'm totally comfortable going to a live show right now, but I'd love to because I do miss live music. But I'd love to get both your thoughts and predictions on this story. Actually, before Ebony joined us, you were telling me how you really want to perform in front of an audience, especially with this new work that you have. And Ebony, obviously, Honey Jam still big this year. But I think if we had audiences, I think you probably would have filled the Sky Dome. But I'd love to get both your thoughts and predictions on this. And have either of you tried doing shows even amidst this pandemic, and maybe even thinking through possible safety outcomes that you could execute? Maybe Ebony, will begin with you. As you were planning Honey Jam, the 25th anniversary, and thinking through, hey, where this pandemic was going, did a physical event ever come across your mind?
Of course.
And what was that thinking like?
Did I not tell you that relentless is the adjective most used? Oh gosh, no. So when it first hit in March, my head exploded, and as did our industry. And
yeah, exactly.
Went into a months-long depression. And every person that I talked to in the industry had no answers. All they could say is, 2020 is canceled, forget about it. I was like, that's not helping me right now.
Mhm.
And I just refused to just go with that as the first thing in March when there's the whole rest of the year to go. So at that point, I had no clue. I saw everybody move to virtual with really horrible lighting and bad production values. And I was like, oh no, that is not for Honey Jam, period. Far less our 25th special anniversary.
Exactly.
If those are the only options, then I'm not doing anything. And I'm very much a boss person and a control freak. So I was also losing my mind because everything was uncertain and completely out of my control. Like I couldn't just decide that I'm going to do it. I mean, I may get arrested or something, right? I don't want to put anyone's health at risk. So I couldn't make those decisions. So I'm waiting, I'm hanging on every tweet from Doug Ford to find out when are we going to be able to gather, when are we going to. And then I started thinking about, well, what could we do once we can gather outside is safer? Oh, Harborfront live by the water under the band shell, perfect. But then they never opened. They never opened this whole summer and fall, which, you know, was challenging for me to accept because they could have. So then I was like, now what am I going to do? And then I heard about what the Elmo was doing. So I was clear that it wasn't going to be on Zoom. I was clear that it must be in a live venue, and I wanted the artist to be able to see some humans, even if it was 5.
Yeah.
Right. And so when the Elmo, I needed to be excited about stuff. And the Elmo is a legendary venue, and I thought, perfect. Multi-million-dollar renovation, state-of-the-art sound, lighting, everything. Yes, that works for me. And then, so that is what our plan is. We're allowed an audience of 50 people in-house, and then virtual is open to the world. So I'm trying to make the best lemonade out of the maggot-filled lemons that 2020 has handed us.
That's the best analogy I've heard all year.
Yeah, so I won't say I'm embracing it, but I'm kind of starting to think, well, if not for COVID, we would not have done a live stream. And I'm thinking, because of the live stream now, anyone in the world can tune in. And then what opportunities and possibilities that creates for us, right? So in my mind, I'm just deciding this is going to be the best Honey Jam ever. This is going to be the most watched, most promoted of our concerts ever in 25 years. And that's going to be amazing visibility for the artists and for our brand. And so I'm starting to think that way, as opposed to, oh, I wish we could have, like, just to get my mental right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So one article I'll bring to both your attention that I read this week was that some music festivals are considering doing like music festival bubbles. So not like a physical bubble, but what you would do is if you get your music festival ticket, you agree to get tested on a specific day, and then you get tested when you show up. And then if you're in the clear, you're pretty much, it almost becomes like an all-inclusive, like you're staying at the festival, almost like a Coachella style experience,
Right.
But you're creating this like NBA style bubble where everyone's been tested and everyone's been good. And in Story, I'd love to get your perspective. Would that intrigue you if that was an option, especially as a performer? Would that excite you?
I mean, yeah, of course. Just having real people in front of you. Like,
Yeah.
It's just not the same online, no matter how good the camera angles are and how many different ones you have and what kind of lighting you have. It really is just not the same. I really think that's a really great idea, but I think that that's only going to work for really big artists. I don't think it's going to be helpful to emerging artists. Similar to the drive-in stuff, like I would have loved to do something like that, but that was really like they just had a few and it was for more bigger artists that, you know. So for me, it was mostly online that I was doing during quarantine. And I was very lucky because I had just actually got a booking agent the day before COVID hit.
Nice,
And
amazing.
like the day before I was supposed to fly to the Junos. And it was very depressing for me too. I was also like, for a month, I was just like, what is, like, I'm just going to allow myself to have a few days to mourn this because it felt like my whole life had culminated to this point, and I had just released my debut album not even 30 days before that happened. So it was just like, what are you doing to me, universe?
Yeah, no, I agree. And to me, I think, you know, kind of bringing this back to the actual live event industry, like you've seen restaurants and even gyms, like they're trying to find a way. They're trying to find a way to just stay afloat. And obviously it's been a struggle, but I hope this industry doesn't get lost because, again, you think about the artists, you think about the people that work on staging, you think about people that are part of the production crew. Like that's still an industry that we can't just assume, hey, because no one's doing live shows, you guys are forgotten about. Like, I think there needs to be some type of median or something found to be able to give these people work again. And to me, I'm in the same boat as you, Story. Like, I feel like if I'm the city of Toronto or city of Brampton or city of Mississauga, and kind of realizing, hey, even when a vaccine does come out, it's going to take some time for people to get it, and we got to make sure it's the right vaccine. What are those outdoor opportunities? Like, how do we start thinking creatively, like how we thought about, you know, hey, this restaurant that's never had a patio before is now going to have a patio. Like, how do we start applying that thinking to the industry? Is that something you hope as well, Ebonnie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the mega promoters that do a lot of these concert tours need to lead the way.
Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate this conversation with the both of you, and I just want to close out by just talking about both of your individual projects. Story, we'll begin with you. Interlude 19 just came out, so big congratulations. Came out on your birthday, right?
Yes.
And so happy belated birthday. I think I wished you a happy birthday when it was your birthday.
You did.
But happy belated birthday here on New Theory Radio. This album was made during the initial lockdown or quarantine while the world was in retrospection. But you touch on a lot of different feelings throughout this album. Were these just representative of things that you were going through during this time?
It was things I was reflecting on a lot. There were overarching, themes. One was the idea that like time is moving forward. We're aging and, time doesn't stop for us, but it seemed like the world had stopped. Like we couldn't really do anything and move forward in it, in the ways that we'd known how. And so I talked about aging. I talked about, all the themes was really about waiting and limbo. Like all the songs on the record are between 45 seconds and 3 minutes because the idea is that they're all interludes and that this is an interlude in our life. And though it's a huge shift from what happened before and after, because that's what an interlude is, it separates two parts. Even though it's going to be a huge shift to what's going to happen after, it's still a blip in time. And it too shall pass. And kind of just remembering that, and that we can be resilient and we can get through to the other side. It reflected on like the powers that be and how we can literally just be told, you need to stay inside right now, how little control we have over our lives and what we do have control over and how we had mistaken what we had control over. So it was really a reflection of that. And I really wanted to put it out. I wanted to write it, record it, put it out in a very short time because I wanted it to still be relevant and for people to have and hold and listen to during this time because I know how hard it is.
Congrats on that. And shouts to Junior T. I know he worked very closely with you on that one too. So it's fire. And Ebonnie, we got to talk about Honey Jam 25 next week, which is October, which I can't believe it.
I want to say that when I hear people talk about the glass metaphor of being half full or half empty, I always say, regardless of how you think about it, it's refillable. Right? And so that's in your power and control to fill back up the cup.
Honey Jam 25 next week. Tell us what we can expect.
Yes, Honey Jam 25. We're keeping live alive at the Elma Combo, live streamed at 8 p.m. Follow us at the Honey Jam for all of the details on where you can tune in to this free live stream. There will be 21 artists, 50
amazing
actual performances, because some of them are going to be mashups. All different genres: hip hop, pop, jazz, dance hall, country, opera. Yeah, what can I say? It's going to be a feast for the ears, a musical.
I like that. Yeah. Where do you want to see the next 25 years go?
Man, I'm just trying to get to the next. That's how I try to get these little
Honey Jam 50. Just give us the preview.
Man, seriously, I see. You see what happens when you plan. The universe was just like, ha! I laugh at your 2020 plans. So I'm not doing that again. Or I'll keep it to myself.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I'm taking it day by day. I need this show to happen. I mean, normally our season is over in August, right? And now August became the beginning of our Honey Jam season, which will continue at the end of this year. So yeah, I'm just trying to make it through.
Did you ever think, just one last question, like, did you ever think in 94 that it would last this long? Like,
Never.
did you have that? Never.
It's supposed to be one and done.
But hey, we're glad it's still around. It's a fantastic platform.
Never the plan. Yes.
You've had like a roster of legendary artists that have come through the Honey Jam stage and been able to share wisdom and perform. And honestly, Ebonnie, I do again appreciate you for coming on New Theory Radio. Story, I appreciate you for coming on New Theory Radio as well. A pleasure to talk to both of you. Story, if anybody would like to connect with you, what's the best way?
The best way to do it is on my email list, to sign up to my email list at Story Music. So Story is with 2 R's, STORRY music.com, or on social media at Story Music.
Congrats, Story.
Yeah, Story, amazing album. And I can't wait for the live stream of Honey Jam. I'm going to be there.
Thank you. And it's such a pleasure to meet you, Ebonnie. And thanks again, Nav, for having me. It was so much fun.
Anytime. And this concludes this week's edition of New Theory Radio. If you want to connect with us, it is at New Theory Radio across all social platforms. If you want to connect with me, it is at Nav Nanwa on Instagram and Twitter. And that's a wrap for this week's episode. You will hear all of us next time. Peace.
Rule the day the plant-based way with the new vegan mixed berry from Smoothie King. Powered by whole, non-GMO fruits, oat milk, and vegan protein, it's a dairy-free, plant-based smoothie you can feel great about. With 13 grams of protein and half your daily fiber, it's an easy way to get the essential nutrients your body craves. Skip the line and order online for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King. Rule the day. Rule the day the plant-based way with the new vegan mixed berry from Smoothie King. Powered by whole, non-GMO fruits, oat milk, and vegan protein, it's a dairy-free, plant-based smoothie you can feel great about. With 13 grams of protein and half your daily fiber, it's an easy way to get the essential nutrients your body craves. Skip the line and order online for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King. Rule the day.